Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin here today, please make sure that you like and subscribe because it really does help us out over here. And it also helps us reach others in need of assistance with these topics. So speaking of topics, we are going to be going over everybody's favorite topic, long division. So we're going to be doing two problems, and this will be our first part in this series. We're going to do multiple parts in this series showing different types of long division and different problems with long division. So this will be our first video, and we will just be looking at these two problems shown on the screen. So let's start with the first one. So we're taking 952 divided by 4. So when doing long division, what you want to do is you want to take the number that's on the left, and then you want to look at each number on the right in order individually. So we're going to split this 952 up into looking at how many times 4 goes into 9, and then to the next number, and then to the next number, and so on and so on and so on. So with the first one, we are only going to look and see how many times 4 goes into 9. Well, 4 times 2 gives me 8, and then 4 times 3 gives me what, 12? So you can't go over your number. So what this means is that 4 goes into 9 2 times without going over, and you want to make sure that you line up that number right above your 9. And then you're going to take this number above it, 2 times 4, and then put that answer down here below your 9. So what you're going to do then is you're going to subtract 9 off of your number. Well, 9 minus 8 gives me 1. Well, once you find out what that subtraction is, what you're going to do is you are going to drop the next number and you're going to place it with your subtraction number. So instead of it just being 1, now it's 15. So process starts all over again. How many times does 4 go into 15? Well, we just saw 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. Once again, you can't go over this number that you're taking divisions of. So 4 goes into 15 without going over 3 times. So we're going to put that right over our 5. And then we're going to take our number of 3 by 4, and that gives me 12. Well, just like before, we're going to subtract 15, or we're going to subtract 12 from 15, and that gives me 3. And then you're going to drop down your next number, and you're going to put it right next to your subtraction number of 3, so that gives me 32. Well, how many times does 4 go into 32? Well, 4 times 8 gives me 32. Well, it goes into that number exactly 8 times, so I'm going to place my 8 right above my number that was dropped. So 8 times 4 gives me 32. Subtract that off, and then I have 0. So once you run out of numbers to drop down, whatever is left here at the bottom will be what's called your remainder. It's how much is remaining. And it's always labeled as a little subscript r at the end of the division line with that number placed up here. A remainder of 0, we technically don't write it. Anytime we actually have a real number down there, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, we would say R1 or R2 or R3, whatever this number is. When it's 0, we typically don't write remainder of 0. So what this means here, what this is saying is that when I take 952 and I divide it by 4, I get 238 from that. Well, there's always a way to check your answers with long division. What you're going to do is you're going to take 4 and you're going to multiply it by this number up here that you just calculated. So let's take 238 and we are going to multiply that by 4. Well, 4 times 8 gives me 32. 4 times 3 gives me 12, and then add in the 3 at the above, so that gives me 15. And then we have 1 from the 15, so 4 times 2 gives me 8, plus 1 gives me 9. Well, looky there. We get 952, which is what we had in the beginning. So I know that my answer is 238. Which, if you have a calculator by your side, you can also check it using a calculator, but we're going through here and using it without a calculator. So that was their first problem. And then our second one, it will be the same process again, but there's a little bit of change here. So looking over here, we have 4,165 being divided by 6. So just like with the first one, you're going to look at each number individually here. So how many times does 6 go into 4 without going over? Well, whenever the first number is less than your dividing number, you put a 0 up there. Because technically 6 times 1 is 6, it's already over 4. So anytime it's over that, you just put a 0. And then 0 times 6 gives me 0. And then 4 minus 0 gives me 4. And just like before, boom, 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 we're going to drop our next number down. Instead of 4, now we have 41. So how many times does 6 go into 41? Well, 5 times 6 gives us what? We get 30. And then 6 times 6 gives us what? 36. And then 6 times 7 gives us 42. Well, the 42 is over the 41, so we have to drop back to 6 times 6. So we're going to put our 6 up here above the 1, which was dropped. So 6 times 6 gives me 36. And then I'm going to subtract 41 from 36. And that gives me a total of 5. And then I'm going to drop my next number down, which is my 6. So instead of 5, now I have 56. Well, how many times does 6 go into 56? Well, 6 times 9. Well, what does that give me? Well, 6 times 9 gives me 54. Well, I know that 6 times 10 is 60. So 54 it is. So that means that I'm going to use a 9 above my 6 number that I dropped. And then 6 times 9 gives me 54. Remember, you can't go over this number. Well, then 56 minus 54 gives me 2. And then once again, dropping the 5 down, that gives me 25. Well, I know 5 times 6 gives me 30. Well, what about, let me reset real quick. Well, what about 4 times 6? Well, that gives me 24. Well, that's right under 25 without going over. So then I'm going to put that 4 right up here above the 5. So then 4 times 6 gives me 24. Subtract again, and I'm left with 1. Well, there are no other numbers, so I can't drop anything down. And just like with the first problem, whatever is left here, once you run out of numbers to drop, what is ever left is written at the end as a remainder. So in this one, we have a remainder of 1. So let's check our answers. So we're going to take 6 times 694. You leave the 0 off. So let's take 694 times 6, and we'll use that remainder a little bit later here, but we're just going to take the main body. So 6 times 4 gives me 24. So there's 4, 2 at the top. 6 times 9 is 54, and then I add in the 2, which gives me 6. There's the 5 from the 50 portion. And then 6 times 6 is 36, plus 5 gives me 41. Well, I have 4,164. Well, I have 4,165 here. So what do? Well, you're just going to add in your remainder that you have left over, R1, and 4,164 plus 1 gives me 4,165. And that was my answer right there. That's what I was dividing by. So it checks out. So there's multiple ways that you can write your answer here. Some people just prefer to leave it like this in this expression at the top. That's perfectly fine. Or you can rewrite it as 694 with a remainder of 1. You could write it like that. But really what this remainder is it's 1 over your number that you're dividing by. So you could also write it like this, 694 and 1 over your number you're dividing by. So whatever your remainder is, you divide by that number you're dividing by, And that's what it actually means. You're left with 1/6. So you could write it also like this, and that's referred to as writing it in fraction form. So either one of these answers is acceptable. Just depends on who's actually grading the process. So that is how you work long division for these two problems. I hope this video was helpful. And if you want to see more problem solved of this variety, please check out other videos on our channel as we're starting to work on the long division problems. So hopefully we can get some more uploaded here soon. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like this video, leave a positive comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.